I shared my journey in San Francisco and Silicon Valley and what I do with you. And there are companies, so I make 2 tours a month. And there are companies where I go with every tour, as I shared before, with Autodesk, because I love them so much. And then there is a company where I wish to go for every tour. But unfortunately, it's not possible, because the guy who runs this company is a crazy busy guy living on 2 continents in 3 cities and traveling around like a lunatic. But now and then, he's in San Francisco when we're in San Francisco, and then we can visit him. And then I get the group hyper excited about this visit, because this is kind of the favorite conversation that I have throughout the program. It's my favorite conversation because it's always some sort of rewiring the brain, activating, motivating, inspiring, full of energy, and you will know in a minute why I'm saying this. So give it up with all the energy you have for Hugo Giralt.
I'm here today. I want to start sharing a little bit about my genes. I come from 2 peculiar families. Half of my family are, for many centuries, entrepreneurs. And the other side of my family, for many centuries also, are artists, painters, most of them. So I'm going to start to tell you a little bit about my entrepreneurial family. This is one of the very first glass and porcelain factories that they started long time ago in the late 1800s in Barcelona. As you can see, this truck is quite old. Was one of the very first commercial trucks actually in Barcelona. And at those days, actually the roads were full of stones, like very big holes and a lot of mud, right? As you can see, the tires, they were not even rubber in the tires. They were solid iron. So my great-great-grandfather used to say that a good day was when 50% of all the glass, flasks and bottles inside of the truck will arrive to destination without being broken. So I don't know how they made it, how this was a good business. It was very challenging. Can you imagine? So the business was that at that time in the pharmacies, we didn't have like pills like today, aspirins and this type of things, right? Everything came in powder or in leaves or oils, liquid form. So you needed like these transparent flasks and bottles actually to fill all the different ingredients that you needed actually to make medicine. My family were one of the very first to actually understand that those bottles in all the pharmacies that were in all the neighborhoods was kind of like getting a little bit boring. So they were like, what if we applied actually creativity to those containers and we create something completely different? So they started to apply, design, like what is the different forms, what are the different colors, the different materials that we can actually really apply into those bottles and into those pharmacy flasks. It's a great example of how good design is also good business. Now, as time passed, electricity, 1881 more or less in Spain, started to appear. And it was a great opportunity to reinvent the business. So it was like, what if we use actually all the know-how that we have of manufacturing glass and porcelain, and we reuse that to create the glass insulators that was very important for the different wood posts to actually separate the high voltage from the wood post, so the wood post will not turn completely into flames. So we reinvented completely the company to start to make this porcelain and glass. As time passed, the same glass that was used in the insulators, mass consumption products started to appear, like this is one of the examples, the Coca-Cola bottles, and we started to become one of the very first vendors in Spain, for example, of making the Coca-Cola bottles. The same glass that was actually used for the glass insulators for the electrical post. So it's a great example of how continuously as a mindset reinvent yourself. Now, the second part of the family, this is my grandfather, Federico, amazing painter. I remember my childhood being there in the floor while he was painting. I would be like playing with paint, with my hands, with my knees, with my feet, basically painting everywhere except the canvas that he was giving me. That was kind of like a very small thing because he didn't want me, to make a mess. But it was a great example of the importance of prototyping. I was prototyping everywhere, like on the walls, on the floors, and everything, Even the paintings that my very patiently grandfather was actually painting. He learned all these techniques from his uncle, that was Juan Echevarria. He was like amazing. He was part of the School of Paris with people like Picasso, Mondrian, Matisse. And it was amazing, the stories that you will hear in this part also of the family. My grandfather started as a post-impressionist painter, as you can see here, and it happens also with a lot of artists. It kept evolving through his life into abstraction. Why abstraction? Well, abstraction because it's such a powerful way actually to communicate emotions. It's really the essence. And as we're going to see in design, it's a lot about that. It's about the emotion, it's about the essence. And prototyping, bringing really solutions into life is about that. We're going to see that in a little bit. So here I am today with you. I'm a cocktail of genes from an entrepreneurial family and from an artist family. And I started my career with the business genes very early on. I studied business in the United States. I can say that I'm half a Yankee right now. And from there, I spent the next 15 years of my life working for corporate world. I was very lucky to work for companies like UNICEF, Coca-Cola, or Telefonica. Always leading the creation of digital departments was when internet was actually being born, and leading always innovation projects. And something happened when I hit the 37 years old. I had really these big genes from my artistic side knocking the door like the heaven's door. It was like, it's time for you to actually go deeper into this. So I was like, okay, what I'm going to do? And I started to look like different master programs. There was this amazing master program in Art Center College of Design for industrial design. I was like, I'm going to apply to that. I'm going to listen to my genes. And I told my boss. And my boss freaked out and asked me to tell to the boss of my boss, to the boss of my boss, to the boss of my boss, to the head of human resources, to the CEO of the company. And really even my family and my friends, everybody was asking me, are you sure about this? Everybody thought that I went completely nuts, which might be the case. But I actually listened to my genes. I went to Art Center College of Design, one of the top, if not the top design schools in the world. I was super lucky to get in. And typical story from California, I met my co-founder. He's from India, Siddharth, amazing electrical engineer. And we decided actually to do our thesis together. We did the thesis about the Internet of Things, about the future of energy consumption at home. And we kind of like prototype our future through our thesis. We were like, okay, if we work together as a prototype, and we make it through these 2 years working together as as a couple for the thesis, then we're going to be able actually to create our own company. And that's how Propellant was born. Now, Propellant is a strategic design studio. We started 5 years ago in my apartment, unfurnished, as you normally have to start in California, very important. As you know, San Francisco is probably the highest concentration of design studios in the whole world. So probably you would think like you're crazy to get out of design school and actually go in San Francisco and create your own design studio. That was the point. We will be learning from the best. So we went there. Propellant is a strategic design studio. We opened in San Francisco, then we evolved into Madrid, and now we have offices also in Mexico City. And we basically help companies, Fortune 500 companies, to grow and to transform. Now, how do we do that? What is our purpose? Well, we believe that we can actually help those companies to create better products, better services, and most importantly, better experiences that truly add value in people's lives. You're going to hear a lot about this last sentence, adding value in people's lives. So I'm here with you to talk about the importance of prototyping. One prototype, I truly believe, that is worth more than 1,000 meetings. And you're going to see why. So prototyping is really about the capacity to give you a superpower of visualization, okay? It's also turning you, which is very important, not only to be a thinker, like we have all been in meetings, right? Like the theory of the napkin. Oh, I have this amazing idea. I'm going to tell you about my idea. It's not only about thinking ideas. It's about making ideas happen. It's actually about hacking the existing reality and creating better solutions. Now, as Reid Hoffman from LinkedIn used to say, an entrepreneur is someone who jumps off of a cliff and builds a plane on the way down. Okay? Now, this is why prototyping is so important, because it's a mindset. It's not having the fear to be building that plane while you are actually falling down. And it doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur in the outside or you are an intrapreneur inside of the company. It's a mindset that we can all have. So at the end, it really helped us to focus in the hero. The hero is the final user, the people that we are actually solving a problem and creating solutions for. Now, why prototyping also is so important? Well, because it helps us to bring actually into life those experiences. We live in a world where the intersection of physical and digital is getting really blurry. So at the end, it's about designing what are the end-to-end experiences that are going to be adding value in people's lives. Now, to the point that I was mentioning before, ideas are truly worth nothing. This is very important because we have been living thinking that ideas were about everything. It's about making them. We can be in this room talking about ideas all day, but if there's only one person that is able actually to prototype that idea, to show a prototype and how it works and how it's actually going to be adding value in people's lives, everybody will be listening to that person. Now, remember those days when we were all kids and we were in the weekends playing with Lego? That used to be fun. Why prototyping today feels like failure? As like if failure will exist, really failure is an invention that we have actually generated. When we were failing creating things with Lego and would break and would tear apart and things would fall down, it was totally fine if things didn't work or not, right? So failure are actually learning experiences. If you understand failure as learning, it will be completely different. Now, as Mike Tyson also says, which I love, is like everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. This is so true. But you have to do not have the fear that you're going to get punched in the face. You know that you're going to get punched in the face. You're a boxer. You are getting into the ring. It's the only thing that you know for sure is that you're going to get punched in the face. So how do we solve problems? Well, we like to apply design thinking in Propellant with all the projects that we're actually working. I'm sure you are, a lot of you, very familiar with design thinking. At the end, it's a creative way of solving problems. There are 4 phases. This is our take on design thinking, which is the discovery phase, the design, very important, the delivery, which is going to be the focus actually on delivering of the solution, and last but not least, actually learning, the measurement part. And why that is so important? Well, because if you have, for example, 10 projects of innovation, which of the 10 projects actually is more innovative than the other one? What are the key performance indicators? How do you measure innovation when you have many different initiatives? This is crucial because you're going to be making the decision whether you want to reinvent or whether you want actually to evolve those projects. Oops. Oh, perfect. So, to put it in a little bit more detail on how we will tackle a project. We normally do primary research. Primary research is talking to final users, ethnographic, qualitative research. A lot of you come from the marketing community. So talking to the final user, the first thing, really identifying what are the pain points that they actually have. Those pain points on the experience and how they're actually having pain points with different products, with different services, and with different experiences are going to be gold later in the process when we're going to be designing the solution. So that's the first thing. In parallel, we're going to be doing secondary research, which is analyzing basically what are the different competitors that you are actually seeing in the market for the client that, for example, and the project that you are actually working. This is important, but to be honest, when you see, for example, you're working for a bank and you see what the other banks are actually doing in the market, it's going to be very similar. So it's very really to go into different industries and learn what other industries are actually doing and are adding value in the same consumer, in the final user. So when you have primary and secondary research, you're going to be distilling it into insights. And from the insights, you're going to be jumping into areas of opportunity. Now, areas of opportunity are going to be built with these different insights like they are actually Lego blocks. From the areas of opportunity, we're going to be jumping into ideas. Ideas for each of the areas of opportunity that are really helping to transform and to grow actually the organization through solutions. Now, from ideas, we're going to be jumping into concepts. What is the difference between concepts and an idea? Concepts are a cluster of ideas. It's a visual representation of how this is going to be adding value in people's lives. And most importantly, what is even the how it works and what is even the business model that is actually behind that is going to help to scale that. From concepts, we're going to be jumping into use cases. What is the difference between use cases and concepts? Use cases is more like a storytelling. You're going to be defining the before, during and after of the experience, and what are the physical and digital touch points that are adding value in people's lives. And most importantly, again, what is the much more detailed value proposition and business model that is behind. From there, you're going to jump into experience prototypes. Now, this is important. In parallel, you have been actually having all these different prototypes from low resolution, validation, mid resolution, validation, and now you are in experience prototypes. What is an experience prototype? Experience prototype, it means that it's an experience because it's emulating how it actually adds value in people's lives. Sometimes more physically, sometimes more digitally, sometimes in the intersection of both, which is coming more often. And from experience prototypes, we always recommend in all the projects to do a pilot. This is very important. Why to do a pilot? Well, you do a pilot because you need to keep creating with the final user and actually keep refining it. So before you're going to get into mass production with that product or with that service, do a pilot and measure two things at least. The first one is what is the customer satisfaction, very important. And the second one, what is the incremental volume in sales that that's actually going to be generating. And from there, you're going to be jumping into the mass production. You're going to get into, sometimes, especially with the projects that are hardware, you're going to get in manufacturing in different parts around the world, assembly, etc. That's the moment where you're going to be jumping into the launch of the product and the go-to-market strategy. So this, in a nutshell, will be the normal process that we apply, for example, to all our projects. Now, the most important question, why does it add value in people's lives? This is the question, the why, continuously through the process that you need to be asking yourself from the inside of the company. And also every time that you are actually validating with the final user, because this is a co-creation with the final user from the beginning to the end. Why it adds value to you? Why it does not add value to you in your life? Very important. Now, this slide for me is one of my favorites. This is a key message. For many years, most of us, we have been very focused on the during of the experience. When you are actually consuming, for example, a product, when you are, for example, touching it, when you are playing with it, this tangible aspect of the experience that we have been feeling in the products and services that we have been using and consuming in our lives. But what happened in the before and in the after? This is very important. Like a company, for example, like Uber or Airbnb that has been also mentioned this morning. In the case of Uber, they have been very disruptive in the before and in the after. In the before, because without having actually cash, you were not able, for example, to order a taxi. Now with just one click, you are able to do it. You are also able to see what is the ETA that you actually have of when that taxi is actually going to come. And in some cities, like for example, Mexico City, where I'm traveling a lot lately, it's very important also from the security, because you know what is the name and last name of that person and what is actually the plate number of the car. And you can share that, for example, with your beloved ones. Now, in the after, they're also being very disruptive because they are actually giving transparency. The rider is able to rate the driver, and the driver is able to rate also the rider. Why this transparency is so important? Because the transparency of the rating mechanism is actually improving the quality of the service through time. So this slide at the end is important in the way that we can all design actually our experiences, designing what is the before, during, and after with the different touch points of the physical and the digital aspect of the experience. Now, when you're working about the experiences and how to prototype, the first thing that you need to do as early as you can is to break the problem into pieces. We like, for example, we create a lot of smart connected devices and this type of very Internet of Things related type of projects, which we love with engineers, industrial designers, and strategists that we have in the team. And the first thing that we do very early on is we start to experiment everything. Like we break the problem, like all the different electric components, and we start to engineering and to test it, what is possible and what is not possible with the technology that exists, for example, right now. And then later in the process, as we are actually experimenting and testing, we start actually to converge and to integrate into a solution that truly adds value in people's lives. We like to explain that at the end, small teams, what we call tiger teams, are really crucial. You can have, for example, just a team of 3 people and they can be making super extraordinary things. We like to explain that tiny but shiny teams, or also that pressure makes diamonds. Why is this so important, the tiger teams? Well, because one of the biggest challenges that most large organizations actually have is to have a pipeline of innovation. Basically, the capacity to think about the future. This is really hard for us, no? We are monkeys, and to think really about the future is kind of like hard. So it's very hard, especially in an organization, to avoid to have just short-term solutions that keep adding up and that you feel that you are not like arriving really to the disruption that you expect actually to arrive into. So in order to break that, you can have different tiger teams with different T-shaped profiles, right? Expert generalists that can be working in short term, which is 1 to 2 years. Then in parallel, you have midterm, which are working for 3-5 years prototype solutions. And then you have a longer term, which is more than 5 years. If you have these different teams in parallel, you're going to be able to end up having actually a pipeline of innovation. The companies that we admire, the Amazons and the Googles of the world, they work this way. There's a reason behind it. I hope that this explains a little bit how one prototype actually saves, 1,000 meetings, and it's really, really worth it to actually do. As Mahatma Gandhi said, you must be really the change that you wish to see in the world. Now, in order to do that, I want to do an exercise with you, which is you can start to prototype yourself today, right now. So I'm going to explain this to you. All of you in the chairs, you have found, or you have sit over, a blue card. Now in the top, you're going to see this graph, which I'm going to explain right now. And in the back, you're going to see an area to take notes. Okay? Some of you can start to do it today, right now, whatever comes to you, passion, emotion, and also you can do it calmly in the weekend. Depends on the personality. Okay? So, what is the first thing to do? This is very important. You are here today, right? And this is the future. Now, the first thing to do is actually to work on what is going to be your CV in 15 years from now. You're going to, I don't know, normal, we're monkeys, it's okay, it's okay. That's the exercise, okay? You're going to think, if you will print right now, fast forwarding you into the future, and you will print your resume, your CV right now, what it will say. And what it will say for the next things. The first one, people. People always first. So what it will say about the people that you would like to have work with. If you don't know with names and last names, people that you have already known in your professional or personal lives, or people that you admire, then put what type, what characteristics of personality of people you think that you will have like actually in 15 years from now have worked with. The second thing, what are the projects that you would have liked and loved to actually create with those people? People are the ones that makes the projects. That's why people always goes first. Third, what type of companies or organizations you would like actually like to work with or even create your own companies? What are those companies? Who are those companies? Put that. And then the fourth thing is the skills. What are the skills that you don't have today that you will really envision having 15 years from now? Like, for example, coding. A lot of us, we might be very intimidated about coding, but coding is going to be great. We're going to be talking to so many machines and then also much technology, and it's going to create a mindset of how to solve problems. So maybe one of those skills that you want, for example, to have. I don't want to influence you. This is just an example. Well, I am. And the second thing is, if this is the vision, right, your future you, and you are here, there are two ways to normally do it, which is from the present towards the future, normally doesn't work, or from the future, you back engineer how to get there, okay? Now, this is a big elephant, it's 15 years, I understand, it's a lot right now on the plate, right, and you might feel intimidated. Cut it in pieces, like an elephant that you want to eat, poor elephant. But imagine that you want to cut an elephant in order to eat it and to digest it. Long time ago, okay, prehistoric times, we need it. But imagine that you actually define how to get there, okay? Now, those slices are 2-3 years slices. What is the third thing that is super important to do? The third thing is like, okay, action. What I commit myself to do in the next 2 to 3 years? Very important. What is the people? This is something that you can grasp, right? Because it's happening right now from today when you are actually starting to do this exercise. What people are the type of people and the people that you know that you want to be actually creating and making things with? Second, what type of projects do you commit yourself that you want actually to be creating and making in the next 2 to 3 years? Which companies or organizations you want to be doing those things with? And third and fourth, very important, what are the skills that you want actually to learn in these next 2-3 years? Now, if you do this, you're going to be able to share it with others. And this is very important because when you give it back to others, when you're going to share this exercise with other people, you are committing yourself. So please share what you have written with your friends, with your family, because they're going to make you accountable for it. So it's going to start the transformation with you. Okay? Commit yourself, do this exercise, please. It's going to transform your life. Second, share it with your team. Share it with friends and family. It's going to help to transform the family of the people that you really like and love around you. And with this, you're going to be able to transform why not your company, your country, okay? And with this, you're going to be able to even prototype and transform the world. Why this is important? Well, please, help us to prototype together a better world that is going to leave a better world for the next generations. Thank you so much, and keep propelling.